It is very, very rare that we ever limit the total amount of time for public comment. There has only been one time that I can remember when we did that. I had a very high-profile issue coming before the city, and during that high-profile issue, it was obvious. I mean, City Council was packed with people, and it was very clear that everybody had very passionate views on this. But with most of these types of issues, generally speaking, you're going to have one or two, maybe three sides to the issue, generally, that are fairly well represented. And so at a time like that, we usually get a little bit more stringent about saying we're going to have alternating for and against on this one issue, and please be respectful. And that's the time that we'll be very strict about the time as well.
If somebody speaks in the first portion, can they also speak in the second portion?
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of freedom there.
Yes, yes.
I wonder how popular that is among cities where you have before and after.
Well, one of the reasons why we wanted to go for that is it allows for comment about the actions that the City Council just took. Part of the dialogue that's been happening amongst some of the regular visitors to City Hall, the constituents who come regularly and who watch the goings-on at City Hall, is that they wanted to be able to comment immediately on whether it was a good idea or a bad idea or add more information. That makes complete sense, because we need to be open and transparent to the citizens, and we need to be able to hear the input. There are times when we think we know what we're doing up there, and a citizen will bring forward more information, and with that additional information you realize this is a different issue than what we had defined it as. And I think that's wonderful. That's one of the reasons why you have a 7-member council, and it's one of the reasons why we have public comment, to receive that input.
Which sounds like a good example. That's I expect very popular with people. Certainly a good thing. Do you record your City Council meetings?
Yes, yes. All of our City Council meetings are recorded and put up on YouTube. There's usually a few-week lag time, but it is put up on YouTube.
Do you know the address, or how do people find it?
Well, if you go into YouTube and do a search for Washougal, City of Washougal, it comes up. I've been
able to find the workshops, but I haven't been able to find the actual council meetings that way. I've done some searches, but apparently I need to search a little bit more thoroughly.
The easiest way to do that is simply go to the Washougal City's channel. So you find a workshop, go to their channel, and you should be able to see it from there.
Okay.
And it should be on the website. I haven't gone there recently myself, because usually I can get the answers from talking to another council member or taking a look at my notes from the minutes and whatnot. So that's usually the way I do it. And not only are all of the meetings recorded, they're also recorded as far as the minutes are concerned, and those are accessible on our city website as well.
Great. Sounds like things are pretty healthy there. You enjoy serving as a council member, I take it?
Well, I do. I do. I think there are many issues that we deal with that can use a different perspective. My perspective is always thinking in terms of whether we're increasing liberty or freedom, or whether we're decreasing it. And also, when it comes to money, it's amazing the different types of issues that come up. Is it appropriate to give more money over to here, or is it appropriate to give money for this project over there? Those are issues which we have to balance on the City Council. I do enjoy having those discussions. I think that sometimes it feels as if it's an exercise in futility when you take a look at some of the things we can't control, whether it's state and federal issues that are being imposed on us. And that's an interesting discussion. How much can you push back? How much can you have leeway for non-compliance for these federal and state laws? We're still having those discussions, and I look forward to more discussions like that.
Great. When it comes to the budget, do you always balance the budget?
By law, we have to.
Okay, which is good. So when it comes to taking on debt, when it comes to selling bonds, is that something that the city is authorized to do?
Yes.
Do you need a vote of the citizens for that, or how does that work?
You can send it to the citizens for a vote. However, recently, in fact, last week, we passed a city bond which was $16.1 million. And I voted against that bond. It was a 6-1 vote. And the reason why I voted against it is, well, severalfold. One, I do understand that certain things that we were funding with that bond are legitimate and are already in place, like some of the East Street improvements. It makes sense for us to find funding for that, and then we have obligations to find funding for that portion of the East Street funding. However, there are other projects which we have on our list of things we have to do, which I think it's possible for us to find other funding mechanisms. Specifically, wouldn't it be better if cities ran a little bit more like what an ideal household should run? You build up the money, then you spend it. You build up the money, then you spend it. Because when you borrow the money, you're always paying more, a lot more for that money. If I remember correctly, I think we'll be spending $26 million, something in that neighborhood, for the total amount of money that the city is repaying for our $16 million. That's $10 million that's going to investors. Granted, they're taking a risk on the city, hopefully not much of a risk, for buying the bonds. However, the citizens are paying $10 million that they will never receive a benefit for other than the fact that they get to expend the money immediately. That's the only benefit.
That was my question. If cities only ran more like businesses where they actually have some savings, and those savings you can draw from those. In the cases wherever this $16 million was supposed to go, you could draw from that and you'd be spending $16 million rather than 26.
The challenge as well is you are also dealing with elected officials who get to determine where that money gets spent. And this is why cities so often fall into this trap of borrowing money rather than building up money. Imagine you have a city council that builds up money and then some different city councilors, or I should say different candidates, run against those city council members before the money is built up to the point to be able to use in the intended purpose. There's no way of restricting the next officials who get sworn in after the next election from using it according to the purpose that was originally stated. If it's general reserves, it can be spent on anything. And so the challenge is the new set of politicians or candidates will promise, very often will state, there are $7 million worth of reserves. They should have built a pool already. They should have done that already. They should have done that already. And they're just sitting on this pile of money doing nothing. They don't have a vision for the city. And you can see how that opportunism of giving a goodie now instead of saving appropriately is a very difficult thing to manage when you have a constantly revolving city council that can always be unelected, or at least half of it can be unelected every 2 years. It's a very difficult course to charter if we don't have society as a whole as a whole, the majority of society supporting that vision of saving first and spending later. So I think that's why most cities go for that model, sadly. And even though I don't support that model, I can understand why it comes about.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine where if you have just a general fund, just a rainy day fund, that would be harder to keep that in reserve compared to a designated fund. Let's say you have a project that you can foresee that's going to be, we should do this in about 3 years, and so you pass a resolution, whatever, to set that money aside, so much per year, and then somebody changes out, the council changes out. I would still think that the designated savings would be easier to protect, easier to use for its original cause. Is that right?
It would be easier, but
not sure.
Well, the council can take any resolution away. So any successive council can repeal a resolution, and we have repealed some resolutions ourselves. So yeah, it can be very, very difficult at times. I mean, if you want to make it extremely difficult, what you would have to do is have a separate taxing authority, in essence. Like take, for instance, the money that comes in through water and sewer bills can only be spent on water and sewer. And that is, no amount of resolutions can change that.
Because that's set in the city charter, or?
Well, it's because of how the monopoly is set up, basically. I mean, it is revenue, but it's revenue dedicated for only that. So if there were a way of taxing, so we would have to basically increase taxes on some level and say this sales tax is dedicated for this, then it would have its own reserve fund. You couldn't just use it for something else. That's true. The challenge is then that's not really reserves, it's a dedicated tax, and that has its own issues and its own compartmentalizations. Yeah, it's very difficult to force government to spend within its limits.
So I expect if that's difficult at the Washougal City level, it may be more difficult as you move up in government.
Oh yes, absolutely. Especially, One of the things that we're hoping to do, what I'm hoping to do in Washougal is to have a fairly decent understanding of where the money comes in from and where the money goes out. I am urging the council to get some software to show that on our website. There are several different vendors out there. It's just a matter of how much money you want to spend on it, how much money you can spend on the upkeep of this software. But if you have real-time data and you see where the numbers are actually coming in from, I think that's a very, well, it's a very good tool to show people what the reality is versus saying, I pay taxes, you ought to do this. Well, everybody does pay taxes, so the question is, how are those taxes spent? Take, for instance, simple illustration for you. Most people may not know this, but on the federal level, 75% of the federal budget is wrapped up into 6 items. You've got Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, interest on the debt, Department of Defense, and welfare. Those 6 items account for 75% of the budget. So 75%, 6 items, and they're all untouchable as far as politics are concerned. Most politicians who run for the federal level talk about tweaking 1 or 2% of the budget as if that's going to solve the problem. And yet, right now, Congress is talking about having a 1/3 of their budget being borrowed. They don't have 1/3 of their money. So when people just see those numbers, especially if you can see it in a graphic form, it makes it so much easier to understand the challenges facing the people balancing those budgets. At the city level, a lot of our money simply goes to paying for salaries and paying for road improvements or upgrades. There's not much wiggle room. We really don't have play money. We do have some reserves, and we're thankful for that, but that reserve is being eaten into every year.
We live in a time where the internet can present information that we didn't have the opportunity years ago. But now you can put that information out there for anybody to see. How much of the current budget, both in what goes in and what goes out, is visible to the citizens?
To my understanding, if you know where to look on the city website, and especially if you ask directly from the city, it's all available. Certainly the budget is available. And as far as where the city receives money, we receive quarterly updates from our finance director. And so that amount of money is definitely, it's given to us at workshops every quarter, and the public is always invited. In order to be able to know that that's coming, generally speaking, a citizen would have to pay attention to the agendas that come out each week. And once you take a look at the agendas, then you'll see whether it's on there. And then somebody could come down and take a look at the breakout and even receive a copy of the numbers.
So you would like to be able to see more visibility, more transparency when it comes to publishing the finances of the city.
The challenge is with a small city, you've got a lot of different records in a lot of different places, and we only have so many man-hours that are available to us. It gets very expensive to have special projects like this built up so that somebody's constantly updating this website and constantly updating this project over here. And that's why so many cities, especially at the smaller level, don't have that, that level of transparency that it would be ideal to have every dollar labeled as far as income and every dollar labeled as far as outgo. But it's very difficult to do that with the amount of man-hours that we have, and we're asking a lot of our city employees as it is. So that's, a very challenging thing to balance.
A recent article in the Oregonian was talking about merging smaller cities, merging even counties, in order to remove the duplication of effort, the redundancy that's going on. 2 different police departments, 2 different sewer districts, all of those things. What do you feel about that?
Well, I am generally opposed to that. There is a reason why cities are different. There is a different character, different feel to it. Even if it's only just in the emotions of the citizens, there is a reason why cities are different. They do things differently, and they have different values. So in general, I actually don't support merging. I think that it can be a very dangerous precedent to set. Certainly I don't support it on the national level, internationally. At the local level, I can understand why so many jurisdictions are moving that way. Like right now, we have an EMS issue that's facing the city. We are in partnership with Camas to supply the city of Washougal with EMS services. We supply them some tax money, which was dedicated for that purpose, and they supply us with the service.